The Man with the Yin-Yang Eyes. Season 3. Episode 5. After calling to delay the flight, Big D continued to call some of his acquaintances in this city. It must be admitted that Big D has many relationships and influences. After a while, Big D told me that there was a place where Tony's son was most likely there, and Big D drove us there. Big D took us to a house. On the surface, it's nothing special. But if you pay attention, you will see two people standing guard outside the door. Looking at the thugs of the two doormen, I think Big D has come to the right place. Big D ignored the unfriendly attitude of the two guards. He still calmly let us in. As I got closer, I noticed that these two guards were also armed with pistols. Looking at how the gun was exposed as a warning to those who intend to come here to cause trouble, I thought that behind this place must be a boss with a face, not an ordinary one. Without a hint of embarrassment, Big D approached the man standing. Big D laughed as he pulled out a bill and gave it to the security guard without saying a word. Looking at the dress and the money Big D just pulled out, the security guard knew that Big D was not a novice in the play world. He took the money and opened the door for us to enter. As soon as I stepped inside, I was a bit surprised by what I saw. Unlike the quiet outside, it is extremely noisy inside. In front of me was a crowd cheering in great excitement. Before that, Big D told me that the gangsters built the ring for the boxers to compete. They will stand to organize bets for each match. Big D and I quickly made our way through the crowd to approach the railing. As a person who does not like noise, seeing the scene here makes me not interested. The two of us walked a few steps when Big D fell behind. Maybe because of his large body, Big D couldn't squeeze in like me. After reaching the railing, I looked down at the ring. Two boxers are facing each other. I recognized the boxer in the wolf mask. It was Anthony, Tony's son. Looks like we found the right place. At this time, the two boxers had reached the match's climax. Both of them continuously launched powerful and decisive blows towards each other. Anthony's opponent proved to be quite agile. He repeatedly attacked Anthony. Meanwhile, Anthony mostly just parried and didn't counterattack. However, I could see Anthony waiting for an opportunity to counterattack. Exactly what I observed. After repeatedly parrying the opponent's punches, Anthony realized his loophole. He immediately unleashed a powerful hook punch into the opponent's flank. Being hit, Anthony's opponent was extremely surprised. He thought he had overwhelmed his opponent and did not give him a chance to counterattack. But he underestimated his opponent. After a powerful flank hook, Anthony's opponent staggered back 2 steps. Anthony immediately dashed forward to deliver another punch without giving his opponent a chance to counterattack or dodge, this time targeting the opponent's face. Although Anthony's opponent saw Anthony rushing, he still couldn't dodge. He was immediately knocked out after receiving Anthony's thunderous punch. The crowd cheered wildly when the match was over. At this moment, an MC appeared. He immediately announced the result of the match. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner after the last match was Mad Dog. Who among you here dares to step down into the ring and challenge him to a duel? The odds for this match will be 1 to 20 if you beat this fighter. Come on guys, have the courage to step down and take the money. Regardless of the non-stop shouting crowd and the host's call, my attention is on Anthony's body. With my intuition, I felt an aura surrounding him. If that's the case, then Anthony must have been manipulated by someone using black magic. To be absolutely certain of my conjecture, I raised my hand to take off my glasses. This is the only way that can give me the most accurate answer. Big D also started to feel that something was wrong, but he kept silent without saying anything. I slowly turned my gaze towards the ring. The images that I see now can't help but startle me. I have never seen a scene like this before. What surprised me was the spirit of a wolf, and it was standing right next to Anthony. I know for sure that this wolf spirit controls Anthony, turning him into a machine that only knows how to fight tirelessly. I wanted to observe for a while longer, but at this moment, I was startled to realize that beside me was a particular audience. This spectator is a ghost. People after death have many reasons why they cannot escape, but because of his passion for gambling, he is still sitting here, which makes me completely helpless. It's been a while since I took off my glasses, so I almost forgot about these souls. At this moment, suddenly seeing that I couldn't help but be startled, I quickly put my glasses back on. Right now on Big D's side, Tony was looking at his son with a sad look. He mumbled as if saying to himself, "He told me he was on special training, and yet he came here. Why did he hide me from doing this?" Hearing what Tony just said, Big D immediately said, "There is definitely something in this, don't worry, we will help you find the answer." After talking to Tony, Big D turned to me with a sly smile. "Gregory, it's time to get some exercise." Hearing what Big D just said, I was surprised to not understand what he meant. But by the time I understood, it was too late. I ignored Big D and continued looking towards the ring. At this moment, the MC is still excited to find Anthony's next opponent, but it seems that no one dares to enter the ring. Just as the host was looking in our direction, Big D grabbed my hand and raised it. "I'm signing up for this young man. He's going to be Mad Dog's next challenge." I was so surprised that I froze, unable to even pull my hand back. While I was still bewildered, the audience turned their gazes to me. They constantly booed and mocked me. "Kid, are you going to commit suicide? Are you kidding us? Can you stand a punch and ask to challenge Mad Dog? You must be dead, son." Faced with their ridicule, I didn't know what to do. Blame the damn fat guy, who's still healing, for making me the laughing stock of the audience here. But the MC is the most excited. As soon as he saw me, his attitude was like seeing a bunch of dollars in front of him. He turned to the audience and shouted, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have found the next opponent for Mad Dog, but this time the odds will increase to 1 to 30 for the challenger. Everyone, hurry up and place your bets. Don't miss this rare opportunity." At first, I was a little angry at Big D for not discussing it with me first. But after hearing what the MC just said and witnessing the audience's attitude, I felt really proud. I will make them regret underestimating me. Next to me now, the damn fat Big D is constantly cheering me on. "Go ahead, kid, show them what suffering is." Telling you I bet you, don't lose my money. I just took off my shirt and gave it to Big D and said, "You're a fucking fat guy. Even me you can sell. When I get home, I'll let you know." After preparing, I slowly entered the ring. I know that Anthony is no longer in control of himself. My opponent now is not an ordinary person but a real wolf. But I'm so used to this kind of opponent controlled by witchcraft, I'm confident that I can defeat him. At this moment, the MC approached me and said, "Before we start, I have something to say to you. We have 3 main rounds. If no one is defeated, we will fight until the winner is found. There is a rule here that there is no law at all. Did you understand?" Looking at the host's face that was trying to hide the proud smile, I coldly told him, "Stop talking too much, hurry up before I get angry." After the host walked out of the ring furiously, the bell signaling the start of the match rang. As soon as he heard the bell, Mad Dog rushed towards me. He has indeed been turned into a machine that only knows how to fight. Right now, I'm not in a hurry to attack right away. I calmly dodged the dangerous attacks that Mad Dog repeatedly unleashed. I tried to approach him and call his name, but it didn't seem to work. From here, I can confirm that Antony's mind is completely under control. After dodging for a while, I circled back and locked Antony. I quickly directed Antony toward the stands, where his father was standing, and said, "Antony, wake up. Your dad's looking at you." I hope this can awaken the little bit of Antony's subconscious, thereby helping him to wake up. But again, my approach doesn't work. While being controlled by me, Antony constantly struggled to get out. He shoved his elbow into my ribs. Being hit, I immediately backed away. I hugged my side and said to Antony, "Damn it, don't you recognize your father? Look at me. Do you look like an animal right now?" Despite my best efforts, Antony showed no sign of hearing what I said. He kept attacking me, which made me start to get annoyed. Looks like I have to find another way. After a few seconds of thinking, I decided not to dodge anymore. Faced with Antony's current state, the only way to defeat him is to bring Antony back to life. After dodging a few more hits from Antony, I started to attack him. After throwing a few punches at Antony, I was able to repel him. I quickly jumped on his neck and said, "Antony, remember that from now on, I won't hold back. This is my final warning to Antony." In response, Antony threw a powerful punch at me. Even though I leaned back to avoid the blow, I was still grazed by the punch because of the close distance. At this point, my patience had reached the limit. I decided not to hold back anymore. Without waiting for Antony to get close to me, I actively lunged at him. As I approached Antony, I jumped up. My aim was the mask Antony was wearing. I want to be sure if a person is under witchcraft, the best way is to look into their eyes. As I got closer, I stomped on Antony, then flipped back with my strength. While rolling back, I reached out and grabbed the mask Antony was wearing. I want to see what kind of face is under this mask, so that I can judge the extent of Antony's control. Everything went smoothly as I calculated. As soon as the mask was removed, Antony's face immediately appeared. His face now looks extremely scary. Under the manipulation of witchcraft, Antony's eyes became bloodshot. Next to them were two sharp teeth clenched together. Antony now continuously let out a growl like a real wolf. After the mask was removed, Antony became unusually violent. With that, his body also began to transform. Large clumps of hair began to appear, and the face was no longer the Antony face I had seen in the photo. Watching the scene unfold, I began to feel that something was not right here. It seems that Antony's witchcraft is not just ordinary mind control. I immediately headed to the stands to call Big D. "Hey, hurry up and look around. The one who's controlling Antony isn't far from here. Quickly find him and stop him." While I called Big D, Antony's body changed more and more. By the time I turned around, his body had completely turned into a werewolf. Witnessing this, I couldn't help but be startled. I don't know what kind of witchcraft Antony was involved in, but it was so scary. After hearing my prompt, Big D started looking around. Surely the one who used my magic to control others couldn't be too far from the target. Big D knows that he is also somewhere nearby and is watching the match. As for Tony, he doesn't seem to believe his eyes anymore. Underneath the ring was a monster, not his son. Seeing Tony's worry, Big D comforted him. "Don't worry, old friend, with us here, everything will be fine." At this time, I also shouted to Big D, "This situation is beyond my calculations. You should find someone to control Antony. I am afraid that I will not be able to hold out much longer." Just like I said, before I could finish my sentence with Big D, Antony rushed to attack me. At this time, Antony is no longer a normal person, but an extremely fierce werewolf. His strength and speed also increased many times compared to before. A series of critical hits were thrown at me. I knew that a single hit would be enough to cost me my life. Seizing the right moment, I locked Antony's arm. Using all of my strength, I continued to launch powerful kicks aimed at Antony's neck. The goal now is to make Antony less aggressive and then find a way to neutralize the witchcraft on him. After my consecutive kicks, Antony immediately stepped back. He looked at me while holding his neck in pain. Looking at Antony like that, I said, "You still know muscle pain." I thought that body had lost all sensation. As I said that, I closed my 2 fingers to form a seal. My hands quickly used various seals. Because Antony was transformed into a werewolf due to the manipulation of witchcraft, normal fighting only had the effect of slowing him down. If I want to solve the problem, I need to use magic to bring Antony back to normal. At this moment, a dreadful roar rang out, followed by Antony charging at me at lightning speed. At this point, I also finished creating the seal. In front of me was yellow light, but I thought normal people wouldn't see it. Waiting for Antony to approach, I immediately pushed the seal towards him. The situation right now is really dangerous. When the seal hits and Antony's body is also the moment, his sharp claws swing at me. Immediately, my chest was scratched by claws. Fortunately, I expected this. As soon as I finished casting magic on Antony, I immediately backed away. It only took a second for me to see my heart on the ring floor. After the lightning strike, both Antony and I flew to either side of the ring. Seeing the condition of the 2 fighters, an atmosphere of silence suddenly enveloped the audience, who just a second ago was shouting hoarsely. They waited to see who would stand up first. I didn't get up in a hurry but kept an eye on Antony. Not long after being hit by my seal, I began to see the wolf's spirit escape from Antony's body. At this point, I breathed a sigh of relief as if the problem had been solved. At the same time as the wolf's soul escaped, Antony's body also began to return to normal. Although she returned to normal, Antony also passed out from exhaustion. Controlled by witchcraft for a long time, defeating many opponents consecutively, Antony's body had reached its limit of endurance. So it's not unusual for Antony to lose consciousness. At this moment, the audience's cheers rang out. Along with the cheers of the enthusiastic audience, the host also rushed to grab my hand and raise it. The look on his face was completely different from when he first met me. He shouted, "Ladies and gentlemen, what a surprise, the mad dog fighter has been taken down. Congratulations to our champion. Never before have I been applauded so passionately, making me laugh so hard that I forgot that I still had to find the mage." As for Big D, while everyone was paying attention to the ring and cheering, he ran around the arena and quickly found the mage. He was easy to recognize because of his evil appearance. At the same time, everyone was focused on the ring, hiding behind a large pillar. This is what makes Big D suspicious of him. As soon as he saw that Antony had been defeated and his witchcraft had been broken, this mage knew that a master of magic had appeared here, so he did not want to be here anymore. He immediately turned around and left. Seeing that, Big D immediately shouted, "Hey guy, stop quickly. I'm talking to you, you pigtail." But despite Big D screaming after him, he still appeared very calm. There was no hurry at all. Big D grabbed a beer bottle from a person standing nearby and threw it at him. The sound of a broken glass bottle resounded. But in this place, fighting is a daily thing, so no one pays attention to Big D. Starting to feel anger at the evil mage's attitude, Big D quickly chases after him. He was confident that with his ability, if he couldn't defeat this mage, he could at least hold him back and wait for me to arrive. Thinking that, Big D did not hesitate to rush towards the mage. Contrary to Big D's expectations, the mage suddenly stopped. He stood motionless as if waiting for Big D to approach. Knowing that he wanted to attack him, Big D also slowed down, cautiously approaching the mage, not letting him attack him by surprise. At this moment, the mage suddenly turned around and looked at Big D. As soon as his and Big D's eyes met, Big D's whole body seems to have an electric current running through. His whole body was numb, unable to move, not even a finger to move. Big D knows that he has been involved in the evil magic of the mage. Gradually, everything before Big D's eyes blurred.